Hey everybody, brand new big vlog coming up. I just went out and I rented 3 brand new movies out on Blu-ray, and I'm going to do a big marathon of them tonight, and then I'm going to come back and do a vlog, briefly try to talk about each of them and what I thought, and I will see you guys back here very soon. Okay, movie 1. Just finished watching The Wolverine on Blu-ray. Had heard quite a few things, and the trailers were not really explaining a lot. But just finished watching it. It's good. It's a really good movie. It's definitely a much better movie than the last 2 X-Men movies were, excluding First Class. First Class, which I did like, it did have its own problems. This has a few problems, namely the ending, kind of the reveal. Okay, so the story is that, from what I understand, this delves into the Frank Miller Wolverine comic a little bit. I'm sure the story is much, much different in the comic. And it's basically the story of Wolverine kind of becoming a samurai or a ronin, or kind of finding something new for him to live and fight for. And it's done very well. Very well. The action is very good. A lot of the character moments are very good, especially with Wolverine. The acting is very good. The special effects were very good too. I'm sure a lot of it, of course, is CGI with no real practical work at all. But overall, this was very good. Especially, well, I mean, there were little parts in the beginning that were a little annoying with a little bit too much re-editing. Started this prison camp. Wolverine, along with a bunch of the other Japanese soldiers, see the bomb being dropped, and this one soldier takes it upon himself to give everybody there, including prisoners, the chance to basically flee to try to save their own lives. And then he goes over to try to help Logan, but Logan, thinks it's kind of futile. Also, he really doesn't have anything to worry about. And the other soldiers around said soldier commit, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this improperly, commit seppuku. They stab themselves and kill themselves. He's not able to go through with it, and Wolverine actually, I think Wolverine stops him from committing seppuku and grabs him and pulls him into the hole and takes the cover, or a huge chunk of metal, and covers him with it and protects him from the explosion. And so we progress many years later. This takes place after the 3rd X-Men movie, which, okay, continuity-wise, they do it rather very intelligently, where Wolverine is obviously guilt-stricken over what he's done, over everything that's happened. Him having to kill Jean. He sees her in his dreams constantly, kind of reminding him and teasing him, and him sort of having no focus or no real goal as to what he should do or where he should go, that he's kind of this lost warrior. And that he walks upon... it's a bit of a long scene at the beginning. He's walking through the woods where he was sleeping in a nearby cave, and he passes by a bear, and then just goes into town to go and buy batteries for his radio. Sees a bunch of redneck assholes, buying ammo and arrows and shit. Goes back to his hole, starts hearing screaming, and then goes and checks it out, and sees that this bear went nuts and stumbled upon a camp and killed a bunch of people, has an arrow sticking out of its back and is slowly dying. So Wolverine mercy kills it. And goes back into town, into this bar where the rednecks are telling tall tales about, man, This thing was over 12 feet tall. It was big, and it just had this murderous look in its eyes, and I put an arrow right through it. Oh yeah. And Logan walks up to the guy and kind of banters with him and takes the arrow and shoves it right through his hand. And goes on to tell him that apparently the arrow was tipped with some sort of poison, hence the reason why the bear went nuts. And he's so intent upon dispensing justice and just beating the shit and probably even killing these guys. And we're introduced to another character. I'm forgetting her name. Yoko, I believe is her name. And she convinces him to come to Japan because the soldier that he saved his life wants to repay him, and what he wants is he wants Wolverine's healing factor. Long, convoluted story short. Guy kind of fakes his own death. His daughter, or his granddaughter, I mean, is actually going to take over the company. Her father wanted to take over the company, puts out a hit on her via the Yakuza, using the administrator of justice, promising him a shit ton of money. This pisses off Wolverine, but Wolverine has also been weakened because the Viper, as she's called, the blonde, evil slut bitch, as I would call her, puts some sort of a device inside of him that lashes itself onto his heart, weakening him and weakening his healing factor, or actually making it it's basically broken, basically. He no longer heals now. And long story short, he eventually gets it, he removes it himself, gets his healing factor back, and turns back into the badass that we all know and love, and faces down ninjas, faces down Marigato, and I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing her name, and if so, I apologize. Faces down her father, and, you know, and the guy is such a, you know, it's just one of those things where it just pisses you off, where it's like, you know, he wanted power, and his father, you know, using so much money to try to prolong his life, and then even using mutants and such a huge disgrace to their house. And Wolverine just looks him dead in the eye and says, "You tried to murder your own daughter, dickhead." It's just so awesome. And okay, so my problem with this movie, as I'm sure it was with everybody else, was how we're introduced to the Silver Samurai. It's basically a giant Iron Man. Basically, it's a giant samurai Iron Man, which I will admit, you know, does look kind of cool. I will admit, but you know, kind of the big reveal of the fact that, oh, it was the grandfather the whole time. He never really died. He's just kind of slowly been prolonging his life, and so he then tries stealing Wolverine's healing factor after chopping off his claws, thus turning them back into the bone claws, which was something I never liked. But he saved at the last minute when his granddaughter takes the broken blades of Wolverine and stabs it into his head and neck, and then Wolverine just finishes him off. Overall, this movie it's very good. It's very good in terms of action, and the acting is very good all around. A lot of the character moments are done very well. Wolverine's vulnerability makes him a little bit more interesting as a character, for one, along with a lot of the other moments that he has between Jean and his new love interest, and the bodyguard character, Yoko. This was all in all, this was a very good X-Men movie, or at least this was a very good Wolverine movie. this was certainly a hell of a lot better than what Wolverine Origins was. I mean, that movie was just god-awful. And I could go into a long rant about that one. But we won't. We will save that for another time, I'm sure. If I had to give a rating, I think... Because originally I was thinking I was going to give this movie like a 7 out of 10. All in all, I think... I think we're going to stick with that. I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. This movie is definitely a big... This movie does definitely get a recommendation. If you are a fan of the X-Men, especially the Wolverine character, and you've been wanting a good Wolverine movie, and you haven't gotten one the last couple of times. I mean, First Class was good. First Class does have a lot of its problems. It does, but it's at least better than what Origins was. This is a lot better than Origins, and it's better than First Class. Alright, that's movie 1 down. On to movie 2.